Hey guys, and welcome back to your one room schoolhouse. If you are new here, my name is Mary Barfield and I'm a homeschooling mama to a first grader and a third grader. And today's video is actually going to be our March homeschool update for the year 2026. Y'all, I feel like I just did my February update video with you guys. March went by way too fast for me. And then I was looking at my calendar yesterday and I realized we only have 8 more weeks of school left. So this entire school year is flying by for me. But March was a good month. There was some craziness that happened, some good stuff, some bad stuff. So we're gonna get into it in this video. We'll start off with the personal stuff first. So March felt like it went by really quickly, I think because of a few things. So one, we started the month off just like any other month, and then all of a sudden we got sick as a family. We had some kind of virus running through the family. I think it was a sinus infection that was brought on by allergies because we live in North Carolina and pollen got released really early this year for some reason. I think it's because we're having more unusually high temperatures early this year. But unfortunately for my youngest daughter, it spun off a secondary infection of pneumonia, which we actually found in her lower left lung. All of us were doing fine. She seemed to have a wet cough that just would not go away. So we took her into the doctor and the doctor even was shocked. She goes, "She has a spot of pneumonia in her left lung." And I was like, "What?" And she was like, "Yeah, you wouldn't have known it." She was running around having a blast, being a normal kid, but we did have to get her on antibiotics and we obviously were taking it easy. So we decided that the following week, why not have our spring break week? We hadn't taken a break since the beginning of this calendar year, and it had been about, I think it was 10 weeks at that point. We had been schooling without a break. So we were like, maybe it's time. We've got sickness. We've got, we've been going. And on top of that, we decided to do a last minute trip, a long weekend to the mountains of North Carolina, which is our happy place. It's where we like to go. And we wanted to do it before the weather started to turn really warm. We wanted to get a little bit of that last little bit of, nicer, cooler weather. And it was really fun. We got to see beautiful mountains. We did a lot of outdoor stuff, s'mores, campfires, all the goodness. So it was really, really nice to have that reprieve and that last minute vacation with my family. And then I thought when we got back that Monday, we would start back to our normal routine, get back into school, and I was so wrong. So a couple months ago, one of my friends asked me if I would watch her 3 kiddos when she goes into labor with her 4th child because she doesn't have any family locally to her. And I said, absolutely, sure, no problem. Well, she was meant to give birth in April, and it just so happened that she ended up going into labor almost 3 weeks early, and her water broke that Monday when we got back from the mountains. Thank goodness we were in town because otherwise that could have been a little problematic. So we were in town, thankfully, but I got a call from her husband that morning right as I was starting lessons with the kiddos. And he's like, "Hey, her water broke." I was like, "Wait, what? We're a little early, aren't we?" He goes, "Yes." I was like, "Oh no." So his kiddos stayed with us for a couple of days while they were obviously giving birth to their 4th child. He came out just fine. Everything went great. No worries at all, even with being about 17, I think, days early is what he was. So, but everything went smoothly there. But that did interrupt our school week. And then I had a few doctor's appointments I had to go through. So that week we ended up just doing math and language arts in our morning time. We didn't do any history or science that week, which means that we are getting fairly behind on history. And I have come to the conclusion that we're gonna have to skip Molly's unit for our US American Girl History. I talked to the girls already about it, and I said it's either that or we do it during the summer. And I was really actually trying to take a summer off this year, and they looked at me and they're like, "Okay, we can do Molly another time." And I was like, "Okay, good." Because I was like, "Do you want to do that or do you want to go to the pool?" And they were like, "Pool." So, I need the mental rest this summer, I think. So, I feel sad that we're not going to be able to get into World War II with Molly's time era, but I'm listening to my body, my brain, our family, and we definitely need the summer off this summer. So, I just knew it was a good idea not to bring that into the summer with us. So with us getting behind, we have to cut the Molly unit, but that's okay. we've come to terms with it. It's okay. But with that, so that week was a little tough, but we did at least get math and language arts done. And then the following week, everything went back to normal. We got back onto routine, and just, it was a little bit of a chaotic month with sickness, with travel, friends giving birth. We had a lot of doctor's appointments. I had a lot specifically. So if you've been following along with me for a good amount of time, at least since last year, you'll know that I have a autoimmune disease called Hashimoto's thyroiditis. A lot of people actually have it, unfortunately, or it's becoming more common, we'll say. And I went through probably my worst flare-up last summer, to the point I couldn't get off the couch and take my kids to their soccer clinics and things like that. It was really rough. I was having heart palpitations, gaining weight, terrible brain fog, dizziness. It was really rough. And I started to get that back under control into the fall, but right as I was starting to get it under control, I had another health thing come up where it ended up causing tremendous 24/7 pain in my body. I'm not going to go into detail about it. I don't want this channel to be about that kind of, going into the uglies of my health, but I will just say it was probably the physically and mentally the darkest months of my life that I've had thus far. It was really rough. And so with that, I will say I am doing so much better. I ended up going on a carnivore diet for a couple months to help me, and it helped tremendously. And so I had a few doctor's appointments this last week of March. I had a lot of testing done. And I am happy to say that my Hashimoto's numbers, my labs, my hormones are the best they've ever been. My thyroid antibodies are down, and I'm hoping to continue to bring those down. And on top of that, I was a little nervous about my cholesterol with doing the carnivore diet, and my triglycerides dropped and my good cholesterol increased. My doctor was like, wow, this works with your body. And so my doctor is a standard modern medicine doctor, but she is very open to alternative methods and looking at different things. And so she was very impressed with my numbers, and I was very excited about that too, because I was a little concerned with all the eggs and the ribeyes I was eating, and bacon. But with that, I was really excited to see my numbers were doing really well. On top of that, I did have some genetic cancer screening done because my family has a lot of cancer in it, specifically breast cancer, which is unfortunate since I am a female. And so I was really excited to see that we have no genetic cancer in our family. Like, I don't have genetic markers, I don't have the BRCA gene, I don't have any of that. However, they did say, based on my family history, I have a 34.1% increased chance of having breast cancer over the general population. So I do have a higher risk of breast cancer because of my family history. So there's something like environmental going on there. I'm from Buffalo, New York originally. I was talking to my doctor about it. I was like, I wonder if there's something up there that we were exposed to at some point as a whole collective family, my cousins, my aunts, my uncles, because we all have autoimmune diseases and cancers and things like that. So the point is that I'm glad to know I don't have the genes, but I do know that I need to be vigilant and proactive and be careful about specifically breast cancer, but just obviously any breast cancer or any kind of cancers. But I was glad to know that at least I don't have the higher risk from genes running against my favor, I guess we'll call it. But so I feel like this was beyond the getting sick at the beginning of the month. I feel like this month was a really good month focusing on health, finding out, how we're doing, getting the data, what do we need to do moving forward. I feel like I'm in a really good place with my health finally, which is really important to our homeschool since I am the teacher. And if I'm not feeling well, the homeschool kind of falls apart a little bit. So I'm glad to report that we are gonna have a really good 2026 this year from a health perspective. Knock on wood. One other thing I was gonna mention this month that made it a little chaotic is that we started back with soccer. Soccer season is in full swing. The girls have had their first game already. They've had multiple practices. They are doing so well. Soccer seems to be their jam. They are really good at it, and they're really passionate about it, which is very exciting too. So this is, I think, my oldest's 4th year of soccer. Is that right? She started when she was 4, I think. And then my youngest, it's her 2nd going on 3rd year. So they're soccer girlies, and it's very fun to be a soccer mom. I'm not gonna lie. I never thought I'd actually be a soccer mom, but I am a soccer mom. I just don't have a soccer van. I just have the SUV. That's all. But so that's been exciting, getting back into that, seeing them flourish, and it's just so cool seeing your kids, do something that they're really passionate about and do it well. It's really cool. But with all that being said, that's all the personal stuff going on this past month. Let's get into the actual curriculum and homeschooling side of homeschool for us. If you've been watching any of my update videos, you know that I like to start with my youngest, and then I go into my oldest subjects, and then we hop into group subjects. So I'll also leave timestamps below for any of you guys who want to see somebody's specific core subjects or maybe the group subjects for you guys. All right, y'all, let's kick off talking about my youngest daughter, Charlotte's first grade individual subjects, talking about math. Wow, that's glare. That's really rough. Sorry, guys. So the last time I talked to you guys about her math was in her second grade curriculum picks for next school year video. And I had mentioned that I was going to be moving forward with dimensions math for her, but that we were going to start it right now. But when I talked to you about it, I didn't have it in hand yet. We were still kind of working through some of the pages from The Good and the Beautiful, grade 2, just to kind of see, you know, give her something to do while we were waiting for these products. And so since then, I have had a few weeks with her now doing dimensions. So we're doing 2A. I had her do the assessment. She could have started with 2B, but since she is already well ahead of where she needs to be, and on top of that, she is, you know, 3 days, if her birthday had been 3 days later, she could be in kindergarten. Like, she's really ahead, you guys. I felt it best to start with 2A. And I still stand by the decision after we have now completed chapter 1 of this program. It has allowed her, now she knows all the stuff, right? That was in chapter 1. Minus, we hadn't gone up to the 1,000 value place, but that was easy for her to understand. She understood hundreds, tens, and ones, and she's like, it's just the next place value over. Her brain understood it, no problem picking that up. But she already knows a lot of the topics in here, and that's okay, because frankly, this is a new program, and I wanted to make sure that she had good confidence going into doing this, and she does. So like I said, we have now done chapter 1, and she did fantastic with it. She knew most of the subject matter, but at the end of the lessons, they will do in the workbook, which I'll show you guys what all I have here in a second, but in the workbook, she has problems at the end of the lesson that are called challenge problems. And so what it does is it takes the concept that you're working on in that lesson and it takes it one step further, but not something they've worked on, but you're transposing what you've learned in the concept into that problem, and it's taking it one step further, and they're having to use a little bit more of their logic skills, and it's just a little bit more challenging. She loves those. She's like, this is fun and a little hard. And I was like, right, it's kind of fun, right? And she's like, yeah. So I think that starting with 2A was the perfect spot. What I got with it is, so what you need for this program is, I just got the first half of grade 2, by the way, to start with, to see if we liked it. So your math lesson is going to be in the textbook. You don't write in this, or I guess you could, but I'm not going to, because I'm going to sell it to somebody else who wants it. So you do your lesson in the textbook, and then your kiddo will do workbook pages in here. After every lesson, you'll have a few pages that you do in here. And then at the end of each chapter, you can get the test books. We did do the test this time just because I wanted to try it out with her. She did so well on these. She got everything right, and she did it in a quarter of the time they recommend to do it. So this is going well for her. And then what I got for me is the teacher's guide for 2A. And I like this because it's all in color. I'm going to do a whole video on this program after this. If you guys want to check it out, I will give you my review. By the time I get there, we'll probably be done with the second chapter, so I'll feel very confident in giving information about this and an overview of it, but we are really liking it. She's really liking it, and I feel like we finally found the right math for her. All right, now that we talked about math, let's move on to language arts. So we are currently making our way through The Good and the Beautiful Level 1 Language Arts workbook. She is literally she's just after the halfway mark through this. So we started this at the beginning of this calendar year. We are doing it 5 days a week. This is a 120 lesson program, so they recommend if you are going to do it over an entire school year, do it like 3 to 4 times per week. But since we are kind of trying to double it up and get it done before the end of the school year, we are doing it 5 times a week, and we should get it done before the end of the school year or a little bit into our summer school, which I have no problem with this coming into summer school with us. But this is going well. She's really enjoying it. We're covering all of our bases. Honestly, the reason I really like this is it's reinforcing what she has learned in the phonics booster cards and readers that we've been doing since she was in kindergarten. If you've watched my videos, you'll already know this, but just for those of you who haven't, the Good and the Beautiful booster cards A and B, and we've made it halfway through C, have been why my daughter is able to read. We tried other phonics programs before then and nothing was working for her, nothing was clicking. We did this and in a week she was reading the readers confidently and with fluency and had no issues. So there is something about this phonics program that really speaks to her. So with that, when I say we're using this, there's other things in here, right? There's spelling, writing, literature, grammar, art appreciation, there's geography, there's so much in here. But the main reason I like this is because it's reinforcing the phonics that she's already learned in here. And so I'm treating this more like the phonics program than I am an entire language arts program. Anything else that comes along with it is kind of like gravy or a cherry on top in my opinion, but it's going really, really well. And she in particular is really enjoying this. So we are gonna keep on keeping on with that. Speaking of the phonics booster cards and readers, I think the last time I kind of updated you guys on these was in my January update. Since then, we have paused these. Now, these are the booster C cards are meant to go along with the second grade language arts. So my daughter is ahead in the reading, of course. But we got to a point where it really was starting to challenge her, and we were about to start the second reader that goes along with these booster cards, Molly and the Falcon, and I sat there and I was like, rather than start this and she's way ahead, why don't we just take a break from these? And we'll just focus on the course book. We're just working our way through this because this is reinforcing phonics that she learned in booster B cards. So let's just keep going with this. And then when I feel like she's ready, we'll pick these back up. In the meantime, what she's doing to reinforce her reading and practice it is we are continuing to work our way through the Book Shark Language Arts Level 2 readers, and she is really enjoying them. So this past month, she read Nate the Great. This is like the cutest little book, and it's a whole series. She was really excited when she finished. She's like, Mommy, can we get some of the books from Nate the Great? I was like, heck yes, we can. So I looked on the library website, and they did happen to have Nate the Great and the Halloween Hunt. This is a nice hardback, by the way, but she just loves the stories. It's like goofy little detective stories with some pictures. They're pretty sizable books too, but she read this. This was a library book, so I got to return that. She also read the second book, Frog and Toad Together. I think this is her second one from this series, but these are kind of like early chapter books because they do have chapters in them. They don't say it's chapter 1, but it'll be like a list. This is chapter 1, you know? So she really likes the Frog and Toad series. She's enjoying that. She also read The Fire Cat. She thought this was cute too because she loves kitties, but I can't have cats because I'm allergic. So this is the only way she gets to hang out with cats in her reading. So those are the 4 readers she read this month to help with her fluency. At the beginning of lessons in here, I'll show you, for example, at the beginning of each lesson, it'll say work on the booster cards and readers for 5 to 10 minutes. During that time, instead of working on the booster cards, I have her read for 5 to 10 minutes one of those readers, and that's how she's working through her reading daily with me. And she reads it aloud for fluency reasons, make sure she's reading right, but she's doing really, really well with her reading. So I'm really pleased there. So that's going really well. Something we have added on this month that I am going to be carrying into next year because we are loving it so much is we have decided to bring in Evan Moore's Daily 6 Trait Writing Program. I actually had this already because I purchased the PDF when my oldest daughter was in 1st grade. I had her do this program, and it's just a nice way to make sure that you are hitting writing in a way that I think, so let me say this. With the Good and the Beautiful Language Arts, I like a lot of the stuff in here, but there are a few things that I wish were done differently for our family and our learning style. And one of those is the writing. I think I've said this in previous videos. I think last year when we were doing level K and level 2 respectively with my kids, I said the same thing. I think the writing is probably the part that I probably have the biggest, like, I don't know, hang up with. It's because it feels a little disjointed to me, right? Me, I know tons of people who use this program and their kids are fabulous writers. So remember, this is to our family. So with that, I wanted to bring in this program to help support her writing a little better. So the way it works is it's called 6 Trait Writing because it's talking about the 6 traits of writing. So 1 is ideas, 2 is the organization of writing, 3 is word choices, 4 is sentence fluency, and 5 is voice. And then the 6th piece that they go over in here is what they call convention, but what they're doing is they're reviewing a grammatical idea for the week. So for the first week, the grammatical idea or the convention was a sentence begins with a capital letter. So super simple stuff. We're in first grade here, guys. But the point is that she is loving this. She is actually writing sentences already from this. She likes a workbook. She is my workbook kid. And so I feel like this was the right move to bring this in to kind of just give her a little additional support for writing that I feel like the Good and the Beautiful wasn't maybe giving her. I think it has a little bit to do for me. The disjointedness is the spiral approach that the Good and the Beautiful uses. It doesn't bother me in other stuff, but writing for some reason it does bother me a little bit with. So I feel like if we do this daily, this will give her the consistency. You're meant to do just one workbook page a day, and there are, hold on, let me see, there are 29 weeks. Hold on, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. There's 30 weeks of lessons in here, and you're meant to do 1 page per day. My daughter loves this so much. She asked if we could do 2 to 3 a day, and I was like, well, since we're starting this halfway through, or a little, oh my gosh, 3/4 of the way through your first grade year, let's rock and roll. Let's get you sped up, and you know, we'll go ahead and get grade 2 for her next school year, just to continue to support that writing a little bit more. Because I feel like I didn't do that with my oldest daughter, and I regret that. Yes, we did this, but we only did like half of it because I kept going down the Charlotte Mason route. I was like, Mary, you don't need that. You don't need that. And now I'm like, oh, I wish I had done it. You know, it's just one of those things that you can look back on. And I learned from my first kid, and I'm now trying to fix those mistakes with my second kid, but that's fine. We all learn from our mistakes. But I'm really liking that. My youngest is really liking that. So that's been a nice add-on. As you guys know, we had finished the Good and the Beautiful Level 1's handwriting, and I just didn't feel like my daughter's handwriting was good enough to move on. And I thought about bringing in what's it called? Handwriting Without Tears. They're my printing book, which is their first grade printing book, because I use this with my oldest daughter and it worked really well for her penmanship. And I will tell you, she is loving it. I feel like her handwriting is doing so much better. And more importantly, she's forming her letters correctly. She was not forming her letters correctly before. And that was actually what was really like, I think, the problem, because I know that you can hone your penmanship with practice, but getting into the habit of writing a letter wrong and having to break that habit is really tough. And that was what I was most concerned about. So she's doing much better now. She has already gotten, I feel like we just started this. She's already more than halfway through this book. So we might finish this before the school year. What I think I'm gonna do, I was gonna bring her into cursive after this, but I think I might, just to make sure we've really reinforced the proper formation of her letters, I think I might move her on to the Printing Power, which is the next level of print. It's the second grade print book for Handwriting Without Tears. And then if she finishes that, we'll move to the cursive kickoff level, which is the first level, and it's their third grade cursive book. But I'm really leaning towards doing Printing Power instead of starting cursive after this. I think that'll help. But we're also doing copy work and things like that to help continue to hone her penmanship, so that won't stop. And one last thing I wanted to mention was about logic. So one of the books we do for logic that she does independently is Mind Benders. It's these little logic puzzles, and she had finished level 1, I think, in January, and I printed off level 2. She is already, y'all, she's only got 2 more puzzles left. She just has to do these 2. And then what I will do is I already own the PDF of level 3 because my oldest daughter is just finishing up that one. I'll go ahead and print that off for her. So we'll get this started in probably the next week. It'll be next week that we start it. And then she'll continue to do that for logic. All right, y'all, so that's it for my first grader, Charlotte, and her individual subjects. Now we can chat about Emery, my third grader, and what she's doing for her individual subjects. So starting with math, we are continuing to work our way through Math with Confidence, third grade. We've only got that much left. I say only, but it's a big chunk. But she is on Unit 12. She's almost done with it, and there's 16 units in here. I did the math. We are gonna finish early. Which is exciting. She is doing really well with Math with Confidence. She is a Math with Confidence girl. This really works really well for her. We have officially mastered all of our multiplication facts. thanks to the Good and the Beautiful's free printable flashcards for multiplication facts. We just would do those for a minute or two before every lesson, and after a few weeks she had them all locked down easily. It was really quick. She got them pretty fast, and I think it's because Math with Confidence taught her the why behind it. She just needed to pick up her fluency, and once we did the flashcards, that really helped her with that fluency portion. Now we have delved into the world of division, and it wasn't as scary as she thought it was. She's doing really well with that. I think we're about halfway through introducing all of the division facts, but once we get all of them introduced, then I will again introduce flashcards for division facts so that we can get the fluency. So we're getting the conceptual, the why and how with this program, and then I will come in behind with some flashcards to help with the fluency so it's just a little faster and a little easier. And then I think after division, we're going to go into a little geometry. We're also going to touch a little bit more on time, and then I think that's it. Oh, we're going to go into weight and capacity, so milliliters, liters, things like that. But then that'll be it for third grade. I have purchased the fourth grade level already. I got it off of Rainbow Resource for a really good price. And so once she's done with this, I think I'm just gonna have her roll into the fourth grade level and just move on. As long as I feel like she's good for it and ready for it, we'll just keep on keeping on essentially. All right, so next up, let's talk about language arts. So my oldest is doing level 3 from the Good and the Beautiful Language Arts. We started this at the beginning of the calendar year, so in January. She's just hit the halfway mark, because what I do is I print out a unit at a time, and this is the second unit. There are 4 units in the third grade level. I just printed out the third unit, and she'll be starting that next week. With that also means that she finished up the second book, The Kingdom of Kind. She really liked this one. She really, if we're being honest, loved Timothy of the 10th Floor, which was the first book for the first unit in this program. And so because she loved this so much, during the Good and the Beautiful's spring sale, I went ahead and purchased the entire Badger Hill Farm series. And she has already read book 1, The Secret Door, book 2, The Hidden Room, and she's got one more chapter left in book 3, Message on the Stamps. And so she's reading these at her own leisure. They're pretty sizable books. They're pretty thick. The writing is bigger and there are a few illustrations, but they're pretty good for a third grade level. I'm pretty impressed. So she's rocking and rolling with her reading, and she's devouring these. There's 3 more books in this level, and then she's got, after that, I think what we'll do is, I think there's no more that I purchased for her. Oh, I did purchase the Harness the Wind book. They do biographies, and it's a third grade level biography book they did. So I'm going to have her read that afterwards, but then we'll probably delve back into the Book Shark grade 3 readers I purchased, because those were going really well before we got derailed by all the Good and the Beautiful literature. But so she went ahead and read this past month, these 3. And then now that we're done with those, she will then be digging into the third book for the language arts unit, which is Heather and the Highland Pony. This is another companion reader. This is a little bit longer, a little bit thicker than the other 2 books. So the stamina and the challenge is increasing with these reads as the third grade level progresses through the year. So this looks like a really cute one too, that we're going to be delving into this coming week. So one thing I wanted to say really quickly about the third grade level for the Good and the Beautiful that we are really loving is the spelling. She is really connecting really well with the way that they do the spelling in these pages. It's a separate book from the main book, but she's really, really liking this. I just want to say, if anybody's looking at the Good and the Beautiful level 3, the spelling is on par. One thing, again, just like with my youngest, that we are supporting a little bit more is the writing in the Good and the Beautiful. So my oldest daughter is going to be moving over to Hearth and Story Language Arts next year, and it's a little bit more rigorous, and they are going to be delving into writing strong paragraphs in third grade. The first couple lessons are going to be reviewing how to write a really good sentence, but then they will quickly dive into writing a strong paragraph. And I want to make sure that my daughter is set up for success. And so we have been working our way through Evan Moore's Write a Super Sentence for grades 1 through 3. She loves this program. There's only 15. How many are there? I think there's 15 in here. And so I don't remember. I think there's 15 in here. I think she's only got a few more left. But what it is you're given, like, here, let me do this. I want to show you a good example. Here's one. Okay. So what it'll do is it'll say, this is a grammatically correct sentence, and it is a sentence. It has a subject, a predicate, and a complete thought. The spaceship landed. But how can we make that sentence better? And so what I do is I work with her and I say, okay, give me an adjective that we could describe this spaceship with. And she gives me 3. I have her give me 3 different ones. And then I'll say, okay, where could this spaceship have landed? I'll write down 3, and then when, and I write down 3. And then I have her go through this and I have her create a sentence, piecemeal it from these different options. And then what I do is I write that sentence once it's completed onto a whiteboard, and then she will copy work it on the page behind. And so then she will come up with a more elaborate sentence that is more depictive, and it gives the reader better image and a better understanding of what you're trying to convey as the writer. So the big clunky spaceship landed on the sun during the carnival after the baby alien was born. Y'all, I don't know, but it's working. And her sentence structure, and she's more verbose now in what she's saying and more depictive. And I just feel like it's really helping her just write better sentences that are more engaging, you know? So this has been a big hit. We are really liking this. And so this has been a good addition, I think, to help support her and kind of get her up to speed for in time for when we start Hearth and Story Language Arts, and she won't be kind of floundering, I think, when we start that level. So I think that'll be good. Something else we're doing this is gonna cover penmanship, grammar, spelling, etc. is we are doing daily copy work. If you watched my videos, you know that we're gonna be using the Modern Speller Book 1, and she is working her way through the 3rd grade level, second half of it. And so every day she works her way through these copy work pages. These passages have really strong grammar, literature. Some of them are quotes from famous people. They're just really high dictation, and I feel like she's being exposed to good, grammatically correct, but also really strong passages of writing. And so she's being exposed to good literature, but also this is helping with spelling. This is helping hone her penmanship. Grammar, how a really well-written sentence is done. So here's like an example. She wrote this like 2 days ago. So this is my, I probably should have shown you guys, sorry. This is the copy workbook that I sell on my Etsy. It doesn't have Emery's name on it. It'll just say copy work and narration. I customized hers, of course. But in it, I have a space for her to draw. She still likes to draw. And then I have the lines underneath where then she can copy the page down there. This is going super well. I'm really pleased with this, and we'll continue this into next year. And then speaking of penmanship, handwriting, we have only 8 more pages left in level 5, the Good and the Beautiful handwriting. After that, we will not be doing a handwriting program with her anymore. I'm really pleased with her print, and then she can continue to hone that doing her copy work. But that's cursive. So what are we going to do to help her with her cursive copy work? Well, I thought about just having her copy the passages from in here, but then transposing them into cursive in her copy workbook. But that's not quite the idea of copy work. Copy work is literally you're meant to physically see the writing and then copy that down. So what I decided to go forward with is from the Land of Kakiak's Etsy shop. She has a McGuffey copy workbook, and this is from the first reader, the revised edition. Now you might say, well, that's kind of probably gonna be too young for her. And I was thinking I would go to the second, get the second reader one, but the reality is, yeah, this first lesson is the dog ran. But very quickly, I mean, if you even just look at lesson 18, look at how long that copy work passage gets. And then you go to even further into the book, these passages get long. So I thought the first reader was a better one. She decided she does not want to write in this. What she wants to do is she wants to continue to use her copy work notebook. So this is more of like an instructor guide, I guess is the best way to explain it. So what she will do is once she's done with the handwriting, she'll do copy work from here in cursive 2 times per week. And then she'll do print 3 times per week. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then Tuesday, Thursday. That way we're going to keep up with our copy work from a print and a cursive perspective. And then we'll continue that into next school year, of course. And then last but not least, I want to talk about logic with my oldest daughter, because she too only has like, I think she only has 3 more puzzles in here. She didn't finish this one on Friday, but like they're starting to get a lot bigger. Oh no, wait, that was a practice one. Here, so let me show you what a puzzle in here looks like. There's only 1 left. Oh, he only has 2 more left. So they get a little bit bigger, a little bit more challenging, and this is level 3. So she is, and this is for grade 3 to 6. So she is finishing this up. I'm gonna go ahead and purchase level 4 for her, and then I'll print that out for her so that she can keep on with this. My girls really love these logic puzzles. These are so fun. They ask me like, does Critical Thinking Company have anything else like that? I'm like, y'all, we do need to have time to do our actual like language arts and math, but they love puzzles and critical thinking stuff like that. They love logic stuff. So that's it for my 3rd grader. All right, last but not least, I wanted to touch upon some subjects from our group subjects category. First off, talking about morning time. So if you guys watched some of my recent videos, you know that we have decided to lighten morning time up a little bit, our enrichment subjects. I just needed to pull some stuff off our plate. It was too much, and it was making it so that it was more like a checklist trying to get through everything rather than sitting and enjoying and immersing ourselves in the enrichment. It just felt like something we had to do. We had to move on and get it done, and that was not fun. So we have lightened our load considerably, and it's going so much better. But one thing that is going really well that I continue to talk about in all my videos is our monthly nature planner. So this is just a blank planner that you get here. It comes with 13 months blank like this, and then in the back there are pages for notes. But the way we are using this is for calendar skills for my youngest daughter to really reinforce those, but we're also using it to do more nature observations. So for February, we did the weather. We also include the highs and lows of temperature, the sunrise, sunset, so we can see how our planet is changing. In the month of March, we decided to track the moon phases. We had a blood moon. That was kind of cool. And the really cool part is that on April 1st, at the end of this month, the Artemis 2 rocket ship launched to go to the moon, go back to the moon. We're going back to the moon, folks. Right now, as we speak, they are up there on their way to the moon. And I actually did not do that on purpose. That was just a happy coincidence that all worked out that way. But so we've been tracking the phases. We've been going through waxing and waning, gibbuses, first quarter, third quarter, all that stuff, full moon, new moon. We got the blood moon in there. And then it was really cool that we got to see the Artemis 2 launch, and the girls and I watched the coverage of it live all day as it was going on. And it was just a nice kind of like tied up the moon phase study with a nice little bow, and just trying to explain the significance of what was happening, the fact that we're going back to the moon, and then this is like the next steps to trying to go further out into space, maybe do, I think they're going to do a lunar base, and then I think the idea is then they can kind of stem off from there to go further out into space, so into Mars maybe, we'll see. But it worked out perfectly. This next month the girls actually decided to do this, by the way. Here on April 1st they put this is my youngest daughter's journal, she put the rocket ship. I thought that was kind of cool. But we are tracking our tree in our front yard. We have a maple tree out front, and this is actually the perfect time to draw it because it is changing significantly right now. It is budding, leaves are starting to unfurl, and it's going to be really full, I think, by the end of this month. So they'll see a significant change in it over the month of April. So every month we kind of choose something different. If worst case scenario, we just go back to tracking the weather. I mean, this has just been a huge hit, and nothing really for nature sticks well with us. So the fact that this is going so well is just, it's a win. I'm so excited. So along with that, 2 other things I want to talk about from our morning time. We are doing a few things, but I'm not talking about everything. I just want to kind of highlight some stuff. I haven't talked about this in a while, but we are reading the stories from James Herriot's Treasury for Children. I decided to bring this in because it is scheduled for Ambleside Online Year 1's reading, and my girls are loving it. And you know what? I am too. It is so beautifully written. The illustrations are gorgeous. There are, I think, 9 or 8. I can't remember. I think it might be 8. Hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There are 8 stories in here. The writer was a vet, and it's all about his time working with different animals in the little community he lived in. So there's like one about a kitten, a dog. There's one about a dog or a horse named Bonnie. Blossom was a cow that they write about. But there's just like these, I mean, how beautiful is that? But the girls love these. And we just read 2 to 3 per term. So a term for us is 12 weeks. So we just, when it's scheduled to read it, we just read it that Friday and we snuggle up on the couch. But I just don't knock on this, y'all. If you have younger kiddos, I mean, my girl's in 3rd grade and she loves it. She would love this next year. Like, this is for any level of elementary school. And it is just beautiful. I just love it. I love it as an adult. Okay, y'all. I just wanted to give this another like, hey, don't forget about this. If you got younger kiddos, get this into your morning basket somehow, because it is a beautiful selection. And the last thing I wanted to talk about for our morning time is we went ahead and cut nature lore for term 2. And then, because we were getting burned out on Burgess Bird book, I'm not gonna lie. We read 22 chapters, which was over halfway through the book, and we were kind of like crossing our eyes a little bit. But this term, I was like, okay, we're gonna bring back in nature lore and read some fun stuff. I had planned to read Arabella Buckley's Trees and Shrubs book, and I started it, and my girls were just like, Mom, this is really dry. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I thought it was really dry too. No offense to Arabella Buckley, I know so many people love her books, but coming from a narrative like that where the animals were, there was a story like Burgess Bird, to that was a little bit jarring, I think. And it was very scientific. And I mean, I was reading to them about the corona of the flower and then the petals, and this is called the stamen. And like, they were like, what are you saying? Because I'm literally speaking about the actual parts of a flower. And they were like, Mommy, we don't understand. And there were pictures and it was helpful, but it still was just, I could tell this was not it. So I said, hey guys, how do you feel about scrapping this? And we do Clara Dillingham Pearson's Among the Forest People. We were meant to do this next year for our nature lore, but I was like, I want to do something. And so I was like, what about if we do this term? And they were like, okay, well, let's read a chapter. They love it. I do too. It is so well written. It's these cute stories about different animals in the forest, and there are drawn pictures. There are real pictures in here. Let me see if I can find oh yeah, here we go. There's a real picture. Well, I guess that one's like watercolor, but you know what I'm saying. Nope, this one's real. Like here. Like it's fun stories about these different animals in the forest and how they interact with each other, but they're like it's fictional, but with like real life, like a bunny would act this way, like, you know, etc. So the first chapter was Mr. Red Squirrel Comes to Live in the Forest. The second one was Why Mr. Great Horned Owl Hatched the Eggs. I mean, just look at that. Isn't that gorgeous, guys? But so they are really liking this one. We also have The Pond People. We're reading a chapter or 2 a week, and we'll probably read them into the summer. And honestly, I don't think I'm going to do nature lore next year because we're reading it right now. And we probably need a little bit of a break. I'm trying to streamline and simplify our homeschool. So I think I'm just going to take a break from nature lore next year. I know it's sad, but I think we need it. But this is going really well, and we're really liking this one. And like I said, after this, we'll do The Pond People because I already have that. All right, 2 last things I'm going to talk about are science and history. So if you guys watched my previous video, you know that we have completed our first unit from For the Love of Homeschooling. We did the Boreal Forest unit, and that was such a huge hit, and we finished it in March, and my girls loved it, and they know so much about the Boreal Forest now and all the animals and trees that live there. The other day we were driving by a forested area, and my oldest goes, Mommy, that's a pine tree. And I was like, you're right, look at the pine cones and the needles. She was able to identify it by the identifying factors we learned about in the unit. I'm not going to go into detail about that because I did a very long, lengthy video about that. I'll link it down below if you guys want to check it out. I also explained in there how I set up one of the units from For the Love of Homeschooling. So if you're kind of like, I don't know what to do with this, go watch that video. It'll help you understand how to set it up in a way that makes it open and go. You spend a little bit of time up front, and then it's open and go the 6 or however many weeks you're doing the unit. But now and we're done with that, we have moved on to our next science unit, which we will be doing this and finishing out the year with this. We are doing a mashup, actually. We are mashing up the Good and the Beautiful, Little Hearts in Hand, Wind and Waves, but we're only doing the wind lessons. So the first half of this program, there's about 15 lessons. We're pulling from those lessons, so it's all about weather. And we're mashing it up with For Love of Homeschooling's Extreme Weather Unit. They have a normal weather unit that you can get, but I already had this, which is gonna go over the normal weather, I would call it. And then, but I wanted to bring this in to kind of really hone in on the extreme weather aspect. My girls are loving this. Oh my gosh, you guys, it's so much fun. Here, let me show you if there's anything fun in here to talk about. I don't know if there really is. There's not much in the teacher guide to show you. But what I was gonna share, and I'm not gonna go too much into depth because I am gonna do a review video on this, but like, for example, one of the fun projects we already did was the girls cut these out. They're on cardstock, and you're making your own weather wheel. So like the months are on the outside, and this all spins. The date, the moon phase, the weather, the temperature, if there is extreme weather, which one, and then the wind speed right there. So you see this little thing. And so isn't that neat? They love this. So they use this now whenever they're filling out their calendar work in the morning. They set it to whatever the day is. This is so like simple, but it's not that simple. I don't know how to explain it, but it is hitting the mark with my kids and with me, frankly. It's going so well. And to kind of show you, like, we use these School Nest science notebooks. This is my oldest daughter's, but to kind of show you like what we've done for this level so far. So what I do is I glue in the black and white version of the front of her workbook. And then she colors it in. I glue it in here. And then we've already glued in some of the things that we've done. So we went through the atmospheric layers. We did what kind of weather instruments they use, and she wrote the definition of each of these underneath, and she colored them in. And then in our last lesson, she chose to do a narration all about the different, because it went over like what are the extreme weather events that we're going to learn about. So like blizzard, hurricane, tornado, monsoon. She wrote it all in here. So it's just going really well, you guys. I have no complaints. It's been nothing but goodness. So yay! I'm excited for next year because we're doing all For the Love of Homeschooling units. And it's gonna be really good. Okay, last but not least, we finished Addie from the Little School of Smith's American Girl U.S. History unit. I am not gonna talk about this because I did a very in-depth review. I will link it down below if you wanna hear more about how this went. I'm not gonna go into depth about this because I will say it was such a good unit, guys. This was our favorite unit after all of them so far. It took us 6 weeks to get through instead of 4 because my girls refused to let me move on until we had finished all of her books, because in the guide, she only has you read 3 of the 6 for each of the girls. They're like, no, mommy, we need to know what happens to her. We need to know what happens to her family. We cannot move on until we know. So we ended up reading all of her books because I happened to have them. I found them all at the thrift store. That was really awesome to find. But this went so well, y'all. And we have now started with Samantha, which is in 1904, Victorian America. It's the turn of the century. Lots of inventions are being created. We're learning all about like the automobile, how ice cream became the nation's vanilla bean ice cream, by the way, became the nation's dessert. Like so many things we're learning about. We're also learning about suffragists, so women who were trying to get women's voting. That was something we learned about yesterday. They were like, okay, but do we get the vote? I was like, did mommy not go and vote? And she was like, oh yeah, you did. And I was like, yeah. So, but it was just so interesting for them to understand from like, there was women who didn't think that women should have the right to vote. Like, they were like, but why? And it's like working through those nuances of how things were different back then and how people thought. And it was just, yeah, it's a really good unit so far. But of course, I'm not gonna delve into that too far because I do review videos on all the units. So once we're done with Samantha, I will do a review video on that. So stay tuned for that. But that's it, guys. That has been our March. It was a good March. It was a little chaotic. There was some craziness going on, but all good stuff. And we have only 8 more weeks of school left for this school year. I cannot believe it. But if you have any questions about anything I mentioned in this video, leave it down below in the comments. If you are new to my channel, hit the subscribe button for more future homeschooling videos, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye, y'all.